So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margus Vihman. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Port of Tallinn. And I have a pleasure to be literally the host, but also the moderator of this last panel that we have on the conference before we have the wrap-up. And how we're going to do this is we're going to have 4 plus me wonderful panelists here. Everybody of them will have one presentation. And I will introduce them before their presentation. Just to tell you what we are talking about is sustainable marine tourism and vision of that on the shores of Baltic Sea. You probably have read the beautiful text that the organizers have put into the internet, so I'm just going to tell you with my own words that we are firstly discussing what is the state of the tourism and maritime tourism in the Baltics right now. Then we're going to talk about how to make it more sustainable. We're going to also talk about who should take the initiative of making it more sustainable. And then we're going to discuss also delicate question, how important is it for the clients or other influencers to actually have this sustainable tourism. But please come to the stage with me and have a seat. And we will start with Ulla Tapaninen, who is Associate Professor of Tallinn University of Technology, Maritime Academy. Thank you for coming. You have over 30 years of experience in logistics and maritime transport in academic circles, public and private sector. You have served as adjunct professor in the University of Turku, Finland. And also you have been working in key positions in 2 Finnish shipping companies as a senior expert, and you have also worked for the city of Helsinki. And notably, you are a well-accomplished author with many publications, and you also have your own maritime blog. And your presentation will be the challenges of cruising in decarbonization and other pollution. So please welcome Ulla Tapaninen.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a really pleasure to be here. I love this place, this building, and it has been very, very nice being here yesterday and today. Let's skip myself. You have already the presentation of me. Yesterday morning, when this whole event started, there was the mayors of Tallinn and mayor of Helsinki, and there was the heads of both Port of Helsinki and Port of Tallinn, and all those 3 shipping companies were presented who travel frequently between Helsinki and Tallinn. And they were signing an MOU about decarbonizing and about making a green corridor, which means decarbonizing this shipping trip. This trip over here is one of the most frequent in the whole world. There's international trips. It was before the COVID time. It was 9 million passengers, and it's getting up to it. So we can surely say that this is one of the most important passenger ships, and those have united here. And yesterday, this announced that they are going to do it together, the decarbonization. But why on earth are they doing that? I mean, we all know that there is this CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions, etc. But what is the real reason for it? This is my, master. It's a maritime economist, Martin Stofford, who is saying here that now we are, due to this decarbonization challenge, in a so big event as the shipping was when it was moving from steam it was moving from sailing to the steam. So actually, the whole maritime business, as you know it today, will change. And it also will change the cruising business. And of course, I mean, the change happens because there is this greenhouse gas effect, but the change happens because there is now very strict rules coming out of the International Maritime Organization and European Union. If we look at here, we can see that carbon dioxide emissions, of course, presently most shipping in the world is cargo transportation. So most of the emissions are also from the cargoes. But the share of passenger transportation is also considerable. And this can be divided to cruising, and it can be divided to the RoPax vessels, like the ones over here, which are at the same time carrying passenger cars and trucks. So it's about half of it. And more detailed, we can see that the ro-ro ships are a little bit less than the cruise ships, but still the share of the cruising in this CO2 emissions from shipping is considerable. This is not, it's a total amount, so it's not divided by the passengers or something. We can see that the cruise shipping has also taken its own share, and it has to change a lot during this decarbonization area. And as we can see that even though during the COVID times cruising had been decreasing, but it will be one of the fastest growing sectors of tourism. Also here in the Baltic Sea, but all around the world it will be. So, and there's, as you know, lots of money there involved, so it is also understandable that they will take this challenge. But how can we look at this situation and how can we, grasp it somehow? I'll start from an overall view where you have all the vessels together, because of course cruise vessels are vessels also, so they have the similar rules. This is a figure I always love to look at. Here we have the red and green and orange ones are how much there is transportation of sea cargo in the world, but the blue one is the emissions. So already 2008, the emissions of shipping started decreasing when you compared it to amount of tons and amount of ton miles where they were transported. You all remember what happened in 2008, I hope so. So there was a big boom, economic boom, 2008, and everything was transported to China, and it was, everybody was trying to transport as fast as possible, and there was no matter what it cost. And then suddenly everything stopped like that, and there became an excess of vessels. And you don't usually, vessels are so expensive that you try to avoid putting them aside, but you start using them slowly. And when a vessel goes slowly, it emits much less CO2 than when it goes fast. So those big container vessels that used to go carry cargo from China to Europe, instead of taking 6 or 7 weeks, they started taking 9 or 10 weeks. So we can see that, also this economic downturn is over there to be seen. But it continued. Why did it continue like that? It continued because even though there started to be, we weren't in a recession for many years, the economy started to grasp, and there more and more transportation, but for the first time in maritime regulation history, they gave the rule for what type of fuel you could be considered. It was so-called sulfur regulation. So the fuel that had been burned in the vessels, and all the vessels were starting to be forbidden. It was here in Baltic Sea where this rule came in force 2015. All around the world, it came 2020. But anyhow, it was the first time that the shipping companies started to think that, okay, we cannot burn anymore the way we used to. We have to be more strict. We have to look for what can we do to be more energy efficient. And you can see there was lots of small things you could do just to, calculate the whole time and take a normal speed instead of rushing over and seeing to the next place. Or there was looking for new types of vessels. There was all kinds of bigger and small things that could have been done because of the sulfur regulation. And when we finally got over in the shipping business, this sulfur regulation, we found out that there is the new greenhouse gas emission rules coming, and they are more strict than ever. Of course, the whole business was shocked by it because it is very, very, very strict. We can say, we don't know yet how strict the rules will be, but we can say that the price of the fuel will triple in some cases. It can be, no, it's more than double, but it can triple or fourth time. So every time, when you're taking a vessel over there to, for example, to Helsinki, the share of, in your price ticket, the share of the bunker can be like half, and that share will double or triple, and it will be all over. So no wonder the whole shipping business was understanding that the concept they are doing is going to be totally different than what it is today and what's so far. So that was the reason why yesterday morning there was this signature and those three shipping companies and ports wanted to do this step together. They don't know what will be the future fuel. They don't know what will have to happen, but they want that they learn together about the opportunities and challenges. And I think that was very great effect. If we look a little bit more closer, we can see that about a half of this task will be taken by just being more energy efficient. There are all kinds of things you can do. And about a half is that we are moving from the present fossil fuels to non-fossil fuels. The non-fossil fuels, which are mainly electricity or some kind of hydrogen-based e-fuels, which are much more expensive than the fossil fuels today. But what can we do? Here it's an IMO, it's an International Maritime Organization under UN who has put a lot of things what you can do. For example, you can have wider, bigger vessels and more cargo load there, so that makes it more energy efficient. Actually, the hull structure is nowadays very carefully designed. It didn't used to be like that because it didn't, the fuel was so cheap that you didn't really care. There's all kinds of biofuels, electric power propulsion systems, logistics, how fast you go. There is a voyage optimization, all kinds of things. So even today, when you build a container vessel like that or a bulk vessel, it uses half of the energy than the vessel that was built about 10 or 15 years ago. So much has been already happening by just making things better. Because it used to be so cheap, the fossil fuels, the heavy bunker oil they were using, they didn't care at that time. So now we are taking it. And one of the things I'm very, very, very happy is this one. If you just go around to the port, you might see those kind of blocks over there. They are auto-mooring systems, so it means that when the vessel arrives to the port, they don't throw the ropes anymore, or if there's a huge storm, they might do that. But in normal cases, they don't throw it, but there is like magnetic things which are stuck to them. And that saves time, about 10 minutes when they arrive, and about 10 minutes when they leave, which, when the vessel is over there at the port, it takes about 15 minutes or 20 minutes out of the time that they are in the port, which means they can be less time at port and take more time at sea, slower the speed, and reduce energy. This saves them tens of thousands of euros every trip. So this is one of those investments which payback time was very, very short. But this area is full of those things which can be done. But now we go a little bit more to the cruising. I was talking about these new types of vessels and new types of fuels they are using. And when the sulfur regulation was the first that hit very hard, the shipping industry was thinking that, what shall we do? Shall we start to use the fuel oil that is non-sulfurous, so low-sulfur fuel oil? Shall we start using what called scrubbers, so take the sulfur out of the emissions, or LNG? And there were all kinds of things over there. And cruise industry is at the moment really heavily moving to the LNG. Unfortunately, even though LNG don't have any sulfur, and for sulfur regulation it looks good, it doesn't look good when we look at the whole CO2 emission chain. At the point when it's burned over there in the vessel, it emits about 75% of that one if you had a normal fossil fuel. But when you take the whole chain, when it's pumped out, etc., it is even more. It's even worse to the greenhouse gas than what would be burning the original fossil fuels, the the sulfur. So LNG is no solution. Here you can see how fast they are well to hull, which means all the whole supply chain of LNG. And you can see that that if we look at 100 years, it is, you know, this equivalent, CO2 equivalent, is much bigger with LNG than this heavy fuel oil. So what can they do? I mean, they are now starting to invest on a technology that is even worse than what they had before. But luckily, when the new e-fuels, marine gas oils, which are, you know, made of hydrogens, etc., they can be using a similar type of engines. So it's not wasted. And there can be e-methanols, etc. So it can be coming, and they can use. But you shouldn't really be advertising that you are moving to the LNG at the moment. You have a question, but I haven't finished yet. Yes?
Sorry if I...
Go ahead.
Last month, Maersk in Copenhagen.
Yeah?
Hello, my name is
Yes.
René Jacobsen. I'm working with climate, but not in this area. I work with events and hotels and etc. Last month, Maersk, the big shipping, they came with a new ship, presented by Ursula von der Leyen and everything. I mean, there was a new form of fuel.
Yeah, Laura Maersk, that was methanol.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with these new fuels is that, first of all, they are based on hydrogen, so you don't have any CO2 there. That's good. But hydrogen takes a huge loads of space. Yeah. So you can't really use it when you want to have your cargo space on cargo and not for hydrogen.
Of course.
And that's why you put it on a smaller scale. And two alternatives that are mostly used and are mostly, you know, built up are either methanol, which Maersk is going forward, or ammonia. And when the shipping people like me meet somewhere, they say methanol, ammonia, methanol, ammonia. Okay. And you hear different answers. Okay, I'm the methanol guy, but...
Okay, but things are happening, right?
Things are happening a lot.
Technology is taking...
I mean, things are happening so fast at the moment. So that was the reason we had to sign this kind of memorandum, that those companies start to share information with each other, and the ports can prepare themselves. So, for example, if the shipping companies would go to ammonia and ports prepare them for methanol, then they're in trouble. So they do this together. So that's why, you know, it's an important area. But interesting is also here this concept, the world's most energy efficient cruise ship, and it's the Hurtigruten. So they are going for batteries, directly batteries. So it's also possible if you have very short trips, just to load the batteries in every port, and then you have like a present technology. And the problem is also that if you have a hydrogen and you change it to the methanol, it loses a lot of energy. So this doesn't have so much loose. So I would say that in short distances, the electricity, it is already in most of the cities like Stockholm and Copenhagen, etc. They already have those very short distances, the electricity. So it's also coming to the cruising. And what is, of course, coming to the cruising is the cold ironing, that they have these charging systems for the time when they are at port, like here, that during the time at your port, you are not using your auxiliary engines in a cruise vessels, but you are using the electricity on shore side. And those things are coming, like you see, all the time. There are some different colors if they're existing, or different colors if they're coming. So I would say that the electricity is coming very fast. But finally, why are we doing this? And why is the shipping industry so eager to go forward with this? You would expect them to say that, no, and try to read it. It's because shipping is a capital-intensive industry, and it's actually the financiers who have the power. And if you have a vessel that is operating next 20 or 30 years, you want it to be able to operate next 20, and nobody invests on it. So it is actually the banks who are the ones that are deciding. And now more than, I think it's about 60 or something % of the main investors of shipping industry have signed up so-called Poseidon principles, which means that they will require their new vessels to be, you know, environmentally friendly and taking these things into account. So it all comes from the financing, actually. I would like to say here that it comes because the customers want that, but It's not according to what I know. It comes from the life cycle of the vessels. And still a short advertisement. If you're really interested about maritime decarbonization, this kind of book with, I would say, all the top European maritime specialists in this area have been writing about. There are studies, there are, I would say, case studies where you can see different kinds of things, and you will. There's almost actually, it's coming out now in a couple of weeks, so then it will show more than my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulla, very much. Do you have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Peter. I just did a presentation on cruises, but then the impact on the destination. There is a lot of improvement in the cruise industry. In 5 to 10 years' time, 80% of the ships have the capability to use shore power, but only 2 to 3% of the harbors have shore power capacity. What's your opinion about the lack of development on the shore side?
Yeah, I remember it wasn't more than 5 years ago when all the cruise shipping was saying that they cannot use it. And you know, the changes has been very rapid. I'm very happy for that. But it's always this thing that who does the first. And my opinion is that I am so happy for this initiative that Helsinki and Tallinn are doing when they decide to do these movements together. So this is really about collaboration and about the thing that that you do them together and you announce your ports that what you want to do. It's of course it is a big investment. So many cities are really thinking about what shall we gain for this cruise industry? If we are investing so much, I mean, is it worth of it? If those people just come here and eat their, you know, in their ships and they come here and go around and go back, is it really needed? It is a good point for the whole cruise industry, for the cities to think that what's the system and what are we going to do? But I am sure that I know that European Union is investing a lot. They're giving us subsidies for these kind of shore power issues. So it is subsidized so much that it should be able to do. It takes a lot of time, but it should be done. But don't take it for granted. There might be some cities who say, stop.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Ulla. And I want to encourage everybody to ask the questions even during the presentations. So thank you very much for doing that. So it makes it more like a discussion.